In history, there have been criminals who shocked the world, but Jeffrey Epstein is different because this is not just a crime story. This is a story about power, silence, and connections that reach the highest levels of society. A man with no visible business empire, yet billions in wealth. A man previously arrested, yet quietly freed. And a man whose death raised more questions than answers. Because when the FBI entered his world, they didn't just find evidence, they found a system. But the biggest question remains, was Epstein the mastermind or just one piece of something much bigger?
When FBI agents entered Epstein's Palm Beach mansion in 2019, they expected financial records. Instead, they found something far more disturbing. Hidden cameras were allegedly placed in private rooms, recording guests without their knowledge. This wasn't just surveillance, it was control. Because inside that mansion, investigators began to suspect something far darker, a network, not just of crime, but of influence.
But what truly shocked investigators was Epstein's so-called Little Black Book. This wasn't an ordinary address book. It reportedly contained hundreds of contacts, including politicians, billionaires, academics, and global elites. Names, phone numbers, private assistants, even multiple ways to reach some of the world's most powerful individuals. The question investigators couldn't ignore was simple. Why would a private financier need contact access to the highest level of global power? Epstein was known as a financial advisor, but no one could clearly explain how he built his wealth. There were no traditional companies, no public business empire, yet billions flowed through his accounts. This is where Leslie Wexner, the billionaire behind Victoria's Secret, becomes central. Wexner gave Epstein extraordinary financial control over his assets. Some reports even suggest Epstein had near total authority over his wealth. To this day, one question remains unsolved. Did Epstein earn the money, or was he simply managing someone else's world?
But Epstein had been here before. In 2008, he was already under investigation for serious allegations in Florida. Yet instead of a major federal trial, he received a controversial plea deal. He served only around 13 months in a work release program. That means he was allowed to leave jail during the day. To investigators later reviewing the case, this wasn't just a deal, it was an escape. And the biggest question became, who protected him the first time? Epstein's private jet, known as the Lolita Express, became another center of investigation. Flight logs revealed names of politicians, businessmen, and celebrities. But what shocked people even more was what was missing. Incomplete records, unlisted passengers, unverified trips. Because every flight raised the same question. Who was traveling with him and why?
Behind the headlines, there are human stories. One of the most well-known survivors, Virginia Giuffre, publicly stated that she was trafficked as a teenager into Epstein's circle. Her testimony described a system where young victims were allegedly recruited and controlled through manipulation and trust. This is the part of the case that investigators say is most important, because behind every file, there are real lives affected. In the Caribbean, Epstein owned a private island, Little St. James. From the outside, it looked isolated, but inside, investigators found strange structures, underground areas, and incomplete evidence trails. Some reports suggest that electronic devices and storage systems were removed or destroyed before full analysis, which leads to a chilling possibility. Was the island a crime scene or something carefully cleaned before investigators arrived?
Ghislaine Maxwell was more than a partner. She is believed to have been deeply involved in social connections that brought Epstein into elite circles. Her role, according to court findings, included recruiting and maintaining access networks. Yet even after her conviction, many questions remain unanswered because Maxwell spoke, but not everything was said. In New Mexico, Epstein owned Zorro Ranch. Officially, it was a private estate, but Epstein had unusual interests in science, longevity, and even ideas about preserving human life after death. Some reports suggest experiments or discussions about future biological preservation. Was this just eccentric thinking or something more experimental? behind closed doors. Then came Epstein's death in jail, officially ruled a suicide. But immediately, inconsistencies appeared. Security cameras reportedly malfunctioned. Guards were not present at critical times. Footage was missing or unusable. For investigators, this raised one central question. How does a high-profile prisoner die inside the most secure system without a complete explanation? At this point, the case stopped being about Epstein alone because the pattern was too complex. Financial networks, elite connections, legal protections, missing evidence, and a history of earlier leniency, which leads to a disturbing possibility. Was Epstein the center of the story, or just one visible part of a much larger system? Thousands of pages of documents remain sealed, names remain undisclosed, and key details remain classified or heavily redacted. Even today, researchers and journalists continue to ask who was protected, what was hidden, and why does so much still remain unknown? This investigation becomes even deeper when we analyze Epstein's final hours. On History Speaks, we have already covered this in detail. Jeffrey Epstein's final hours, the Cell 21 mystery explained. In that video, we break down missing timelines, security failures, and unanswered contradictions. If you want to understand the full picture, that video is essential.
Today, Epstein is gone. Maxwell is in prison, but justice still feels incomplete. Because when a case involves powerful people, missing evidence, and sealed files, the truth becomes harder to reach. And so, the final question remains: was justice served, or is the real story still hidden?